Hey everybody, welcome back to another month of Quilling with Jess. I'm Jess, and this month is May, and we're going to do Marquee May. So each of the odd months this year, we're doing a special technique, and so this month is going to be the marquee shape, which is kind of the eyeball shape. And I'm really excited about it. Each week is going to be a different design on how you can use a marquee shape. After this, the first video this month will be just how to make them. I hope that you enjoy them. If you're an Outlander fan, stay tuned for the one of the weekends near the finale, and we're going to do something special for Outlander. So I hope that you enjoy. Yes, it is May, and I'm wearing a hat because it's 35 degrees outside. So I hope that you enjoy, and happy crafting.
Welcome back, everybody. I am so excited that you're here today for a bit of a special Quilling with Jess tutorial. Today, we're going to stick with our theme for the month of the marquee shape, but then I was looking back at one of my Outlander fan art pieces that I made at the beginning of this month and remembered, oh, hey, forget-me-nots, I made them with marquee shapes. So let's celebrate some more Outlander. You can never get enough. And do some forget-me-nots. So today we're just going to be making two forget-me-nots, but one of each size. And I'll use them somewhere, and I'll hopefully, if I get it finished before I post this video, I will show you how I use those forget-me-nots. But let's just go ahead and make some, and then we will, yeah, use them up later. So if you are an Outlander fan, please like and share this with your friends, your family, your book groups, whoever. I loved making all of the art that I did for my collection, but this was one of the first that I made. And I do have, if you're interested, I do have a few of these silhouettes sitting around, just a couple of Jamie and Claire faces sitting on my table, if you're at all interested in having some cutouts. So let's go ahead and get started. And as usual, we will talk about our tools first. First, we are going to be using some tweezers. You can use any kind of tweezers that you have. These are artistic type of tweezers, really needly. My husband calls them my intense tweezers. But if you just have something that you use to, clean up your eyebrows, then that'd be fine as well. You're going to want a slotted quilling tool, and then we're going to want to use some school glue to create our forget-me-nots. Now, I use the needle nose bottle because most of the shapes that I'm making are very tiny, and I want to just be able to put a dot of glue at a time instead of a dollop or a glob or anything like that. But if you don't have a needle nose bottle, I do sell these on my Etsy shop, Quilling with Jess, or you can create like a little puddle on a paper plate or a napkin or something, and use a toothpick or a Q-tip or paintbrush or something to apply it as you like. That's an option as well. Today we're also going to be using our clear tacky glue. It's not absolutely necessary, but it's recommended because we want it for connecting the petals to each other because as you will see soon, but may be able to tell here, they're only connected at a tiny little point in the center underneath the pollen here. And so you want to have a better connector, which this is, than just school glue. But if you only have school glue, you can definitely do this activity. You just will want to wait a lot longer before moving your flowers at all. We're also going to use our circle sizer today. If you're not familiar with circle sizers, I love the tools with quilling. They all are named something that basically describes what they are for the most part. So the circle sizer is once we have made a coil, we can drop it into one of these circles to size it the same size every time for our petals, which is good because when you're making petals to go on a forget-me-not or a daisy or something really uniform all the way around, you want them to be at least roughly the same size. If you don't have this, I will also do my best to remember to demonstrate creating a petal without the circle sizer. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and prep our strips that we're going to use for our petals. Each of these petals, as you might be able to see, is two tones. So there's the darker blue on the outside, lighter blue on the inside. So I am going to glue the lighter and the darker to each other and set them aside to dry before I start trying to work with them. So what you're going to do, I'm using the bigger ones first. So the darker blue is a half a strip. The lighter blue is a third of a strip. All right. So I'm going to put a little glue there on my strip, just a very little bit of glue. I'll end to end glue the darker blue on top of there. So we'll just put those there. And then the goal is to have them seem like one long strip. So that means you want them to be really flush going along here. You don't want them to be crooked at all. And there is one petal. So we're just going to set that aside and let it dry before we start working with it. All right, so I've done that to all 5 of those for that size petal. But now I'm going to also do it for the smaller petal while I'm working on it, so that way, once we get there, we can just keep on going. So the smaller one is the dark strips are a third of a strip, and the lighter strips are a quarter of a strip. So just a little bit smaller, nothing too notable, but we're going to glue them together the exact same way as the longer ones. Okay, so we've got all our strips prepped, so now we're going to go ahead and start quilling. Now, when we're doing the bigger ones, honestly, whenever we're doing either size, we just have to decide, do you want them to be a little tighter like this, where there's not a lot of space inside each petal, or do you like the looser effect? I kind of like them both, so I'm going to play around with it a little bit this time to see which ones I decide to make. So let's pull out our circle sizer, and we've got our quilling tool. I'll just scooch this over for a little for a bit of space. When you're quilling 2 colors of the strip, or colors of strip on one, you want to remember, okay, what color do I want in the center? Because whatever you put on your hook, that is going to be the center of your shape. So I want the lighter in the center, so that's what I'm going to put into my hook, or my slotted quilling tool. So you're going to load it in, and I like to keep a little bit of an anchor at the top. It just kind of helps with the hold. It doesn't have to be anything notable. It could just be something really tiny, but just a little bit. And then I'm going to use my finger on the bottom, my thumb on the side here, and then it's kind of wedged in. And that's good because then you have control of the paper as you're turning it. So you're going to then start turning it towards yourself with that hold, so it's nice and wedged in there. And you are going to twist this or quill this all the way to the bottom past the darker blue. All right, now when you get to the bottom, we're going to go ahead and take it off of our tool. All right, and then we're going to locate which opening we want to put it into. So this is a pretty big coil. The coil itself is probably about 10 millimeters, so we want to find something where it's going to open up that we can see those colors how we want to. I think I'm going to make this a bigger one like I did last time, so let's try, this is 18 or 20. So 18 or 20, try one of those. I'm going to go with the 18. Oops, my coil wants to go for the 20, but we're going to go for the 18. Now, if you have this little separation here, You can always try stick your quilling tool in there and just loosen it up. And then that looks a little bit more like what we were hoping for. So then either use your fingers or your tweezers, and you're going to pick that up and then just kind of keep it that size, which that is our goal. Take your glue, give it a nice little amount there, and then we're going to close that there. Take the image here and pinch on both sides. Not all the way down, we don't want to squish the middle, but we'll just pinch on the sides. And that is one of our 5 little petals. Now, the forget-me-nots are a little fatter in the middle, so you can pinch a little less, or once you've done that, you can always give them a little squish back to the middle to just give them a little bit more shape. All right, so let's keep going and do the rest of the longer strips. All right, so we've got all these shapes ready. All right, and since we're going to go ahead and work on the other petals, let's go ahead and glue these together so they have time to dry a little. So, like I said, we're going to use our clear tacky glue. Now, you want to be sure that you've gotten them angled the way that you want. Do you like, kind of one side or another to be on the outside? So kind of get those organized before you start gluing. And then I just put a little, or a lot, a little or a lot on the inside of that marquee tip. And I'm actually going to share the love a little with another one because I got too much glue. And then you just connect it right at the tips there. So this one already got a little glue. That one we'll just add on. And then this last one I'm going to do on both tips, both sides of the tips, and then just connect those there. And then while it's still wet, you can kind of shape it however you like. And then we'll just scooch that so it's out of the way. All right, so we'll let that dry and we'll work on our smaller ones. So I think I'll stick with the examples here where the smaller ones are quite a bit tighter. So what that will mean is I'm not going to rely on the circle sizer this time. So if you want to use the circle sizer, let's go ahead and I'll show you about what size you can use. So we'll quill this up the same as before. Okay, pull that off. And then let's go ahead and try the 12. Yeah. So if you have a 10 or 12, somewhere around there, we'll glue that the same as before. And then everything else from this step is exactly the same, just looks a little different because it's a little smaller. Okay, so feel free to use your circle sizer if you like. I guess I will now also show you the version without using your circle sizer. And then, so we know we're going for about this size. I'm just going to gradually open it up in my fingers until I think I've gotten there. All right, so for the sake of argument, nope, it's not big enough yet. All right, how about now? It's getting pretty close. So one thing that you want to be sure is, say you are not using the circle sizer, go ahead and you can make each of these just as a circle. Just close it up with your tweezers, kind of hold that down for a second. And then make all your coils first. So that way you're not ending up with various sizes of petals because you'll have each of them to look at for reference before you pinch them. Because once you pinch them, it's a lot more difficult to kind of tell what size they are or are supposed to be. Now, I am going to go briefly through the centers that I made for these, just for the continuity of completing these together. But they're not marquee shapes, so I will let you know that I am going to use, I think, probably a little under a half a strip for the bigger one of black, and then probably closer to a quarter of a strip for the smaller forget-me-not in black. And then the yellow, this time I'm just going to do more of a border color. So each of them are going to be a little under a quarter of a strip. And then we've got to do our little fringed paper. Now, I already had several of these prepped, so I just already brought up a prepped one. But if you have a thicker strip, so this is not quite 10 millimeters, probably more like 7 or 8. And then if you can see, it's been cut down and just frayed the whole way down. So, yeah, however you want or however you can, make them just little cuts the whole way around. I know if you look at forget-me-nots, they more have like a little triangle of each one. You're more than welcome to do that as well. I just thought for, yeah, just for something a little different, a little aesthetic, and also a little simpler, then that was how I was going to do that. So for both of these pollen centers, we want to prep them just like before. So I'm going to take my yellow and connect that to my black. And then I'm going to tear this in half. So this is probably, a couple inches for each. And we'll glue it to the yellow or the gold, whatever color you're using there. So we want our black to be the center. And this fray is going to be on the outside. This time I want you to pay close attention because we're not going to be using our circle sizer anymore. And we're not going to let these center pieces open up. We want them to be tight like this. And so what we're going to make is called a tight coil. So we're going to start at the black, coil it just like you would before. And I am going to suggest that once you get to the start of that frayed section, that you put a little glue there. Because this section may not choose to stay as tight as the rest. But we're going to give it a shot. So you might just do glue along the bottom as you go. So it'll stay, so it'll stay a little tighter along your pollen. And then we will hold it there and let it dry for just a minute. All right, when you think that has had long enough to dry, then you're going to gently pull that off. I might take my tweezers, find the end there, and just hold that down a second, just to be sure nothing's going to come popping off. And then that's also a good way to spread these at the same time. So for the forget-me-not, I'm going to have them spread really wide. But normally when I use these, I kind of have like some of them are up, some of them are down, kind of a layered look. But this time we want them to lay pretty flat because of the type of flower we're making. Take it by some of the tips. You're going to use your clear tacky glue again if you have it, or your regular glue if you don't. Put a little on the bottom, and then just set it right on top of your flower there. And there you go. There is one of your forget-me-nots. Now we'll do that with our smaller one, and then we will be finished. Now, it's your choice when you are making this for this smaller one. If your frayed edge is just a little too wide for you, you can always, before you glue it down, just come in and give it a little haircut. That's what I did with these, which look pretty cool. But this time I decided to keep it a little bit wild and eccentric, so it's kind of big. So, there you are. Like I said, I hope that you have enjoyed this. I hope that this will be a project that you might want to share with your other book loving friends or create yourself. As you may know, if you follow me at all on Instagram or even here, I did a whole hour and a half or 2 hour long sharing of my Outlander art. I really have just loved it. So I hope that you are excited to try this yourself if you haven't already, and keep following along for more fun ways to use the marquee shape. Thanks so much for joining. If you do create these, or you love Outlander, or you just want to be supportive, follow me here, follow me on Patreon, follow me on Instagram, share what you're making. I don't care if it's quilling or something else, just let's create a fun, art-friendly community. Thank you so much again, and happy crafting!